Well, ministers of agriculture from Canada met in Ottawa this week to discuss the next agricultural policy framework. Well, host of Real Ag Radio, Sean Haney, joins us now with a recap of that gathering. And Sean, as always, thanks for your time here today. So what was discussed, or at the very least decided, at this week's meeting?
Hey, Jenna, good to be with you here this morning. So what's been decided, I'm not quite sure, but there was a lot from a discussion standpoint. So the ministers, 9 of whom attended in person, spent their morning session discussing what they want to see in the framework for the next $3 billion Canadian agricultural partnership, which expires here coming up in March of 2023. The afternoon portion of their meeting was spent on various issues, including things like avian influenza, global food security, the Russia invasion of Ukraine, and the creation of a grocery code of conduct, which has been in the works for quite some time. So lots on the agenda as they prepare for the next big in-person meeting, which will be happening in July.
And what have been the gaps between the provinces and the federal ministry in the past?
Yeah, so it all comes down to business risk management. That's really been a big piece of this. And it's really been between the federal minister and the prairie provinces. And if you really want to pinpoint it, it's really been about Alberta and the federal minister. And it all has to do with money and how the structure of that business risk management program, the agri-stability program, how that actually functions. And that's been a big part of the gap. This is a 60-40 split between the federal government and the provinces. Provinces like Saskatchewan have also spoken up saying, you know, this is a big, big budget item for us, and we don't have a surety on what our actual payout would have to be. Mr. Bourbeau was quoted as saying to Real Agriculture, we're trying to be creative to find consensus, so we have to do our homework and share more information. It's a bit early for me to get into more details, but I'm positive and confident that we'll reach a consensus by July.
And Sean, how will these climate initiatives be a factor in the new framework? Well,
climate initiatives are a big focus for the Canadian government. We talk about developing a carbon market, reducing carbon emissions, reducing methane emissions. This all goes back to things like COP26. Minister Bourbeau is also urging her provincial counterparts to really try to figure out how to integrate climate criteria or incentives into the next version of BRM programs. So essentially, farmers having to meet some sort of climate environmental checklist, depending on if you're in the cow-calf sector or dairy or broadacre farming, do you do these things to basically qualify for some parts of the agri-stability payout? Not a lot of details there, but I think rest assured this is going to be a big part of the negotiation in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in July when the ministers get back together for the big meeting, where they're going to really have to, rubber's going to have to hit the road on negotiations, because we only have till March of 2023 before this one runs out. And ministers we've talked to, they don't want to just extend it. They want to come up with a new 5-year agreement and move on. One of the other big things, Janet, before I go, is the size of the pot of money. That's going to be another pressure point as they try to work in some of these climate initiatives. Are we also talking about more money? Because doing more things with the same amount of money is not good.
All right. Well, Sean, as always, thank you very much for your insight. Host of Real Ag Radio, Sean Haney, on the phone with us here this morning. You can go online to realagriculture.com for more information. Well, you can watch Sean also on his show, Real Ag Radio. That airs at 4:30 in the afternoon, weekdays on Rural Radio 147 on Sirius XM. And, of course, you can tune in and hear him there. And, again, we'll talk with him here on the Market Day Report tomorrow.